Afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, we'll be focusing in on a rounds of severe weather through early next week with significant wind potential possible as a derecho pattern does persist, and then extreme heat relief for especially the southern United States as temperatures do cool off just in time for the 4th of July, and then double trouble in the tropics. Two hurricanes are named in the eastern Pacific Ocean. We'll get to those details later on in today's video. But going back to yesterday, it was a very busy day on the severe weather front. We had a derecho occur here from all the way back into southeastern Nebraska and dive east-southeastward into the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley. And this does qualify as a progressive derecho. And within this derecho, we had one reported tornado, 292 wind reports, 20 of those being in excess of 74 miles per hour, 43 hail reports. We had a total of 336 severe weather reports dating back to your Thursday, June 29th time frame. But as we go through today, we do see heat persisting across the lower and middle Mississippi Valley with widespread heat advisories all the way up into the St. Louis region, the Kansas City region, and also excessive heat warnings in the pink shade of color for Memphis, the Nashville area, Jackson, Mississippi, Shreveport, all the way down to New Orleans as we head throughout this afternoon. And the reason for that, look at these high temperatures, folks. It is hot down here across the middle and lower Mississippi Valley. Temperatures widespread are back across the triple digit point all the way up into St. Louis. We could be as hot as 100 degrees today. We're at 100 degrees in Memphis, 102 in Little Rock, 102 there as well down in the Shreveport region. So it is stifling hot. But when you add in the moisture, those dew points, it makes it feel even hotter. So it adds more fuel to the fire per se. And some of these heat index values could be as high as 115 degrees Fahrenheit as we head throughout this afternoon. So if you do work outside, take plenty of breaks, hydrate, guys. It is very hot across the middle and lower Mississippi Valley this afternoon. And what the heat is doing is continuing to persist this classic derecho pattern we have in the atmosphere, where you have a high pressure ridge across the southeast and the airflow around that is always clockwise. So you start to see more of these progressive derechos become more likely in this pattern. So here we go again, more severe weather back in portions of the western plains, and then that will dive east-southeastward across the Missouri Valley and into the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley as we head throughout the afternoon and into the evening. This is a slight risk for severe weather from the Amarillo region on up here into Kansas City, St. Louis, getting into the Nashville region later on today. This could include the potential even for some damaging hail, especially if you get back here into southeastern Colorado and extreme northeastern New Mexico. Some of these hailstones could be hen egg size or larger, so definitely watch out for that later on today. So looking at what the radar could be showing later on today, this afternoon, isolated to widely scattered supercells off the front range of the Rockies and into the western plains, and then we could have some isolated storm activity across parts of the lower Midwest. But as we go through tonight, we're going to be using that heat and energy in full force with the storm starting to develop more lines of storms across Kansas, Oklahoma, and northwest Texas, and more of a complex of storms on the northern fringe across the St. Louis region, downstate Illinois, and into portions of Indiana, with more severe storms possible, unfortunately, in some of the same areas that got hit very hard yesterday as well. That will continue through the nighttime. Then as we go into Saturday, much of the same. The heat will start to ratchet down a little bit, but we still see some high temperatures in the triple digit mark. 101 degrees in Nashville, 101 there into the Memphis region, 100 degrees in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Little Rock, and 102 in Shreveport on your Saturday, July 1st. And those heat index values will be back to 105 to 110 across the lower Mississippi Valley as we head into your Saturday afternoon. And what this will do again is fuel more strong to severe storms across the very same corridor we've been seeing the last couple of days. The Storm Prediction Center has gone ahead and upgraded to an enhanced risk for severe storms. That's a level 3 out of 5 on the scale, and that is across portions of St. Louis, downstate Illinois, including the Paducah, Kentucky region, and over toward the Louisville, Evansville region as well as we head throughout your Saturday. And then that slight risk persists further to the east southeast, the Knoxville, Nashville area, getting into western Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia, getting into the western Carolinas, Atlanta, Georgia. Those areas we'll be watching for you for severe weather on Saturday. This does include the potential of a couple tornadoes. Now, this is not going to be a tornado outbreak. I think the main mode of severe weather will be damaging winds and large hail. But a couple tornadoes will be possible across southern Indiana, southern Ohio, getting into parts of eastern Kentucky and West Virginia as we go through your Saturday time frame. So looking Saturday morning, we got the remnants of those storm complexes all across the Midwest, the Southern Plains, and the Tennessee Valley, a couple different complexes to work with, and those will start to fade away later on Saturday morning. Then we could see some re-intensification or new development of storms during the afternoon, peak daytime heating 2-3 o'clock, and more severe storms with an organized complex trying to develop near the St. Louis region by mid-afternoon. That will surge to the east, bringing more widespread damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, some large hail, and perhaps a couple of storms out ahead of the main line that could produce a tornado or two. We will be watching through your Saturday night time frame. Then, oh yeah, as we head into Sunday, here we go again. More severe storms across that same corridor, the lower Ohio River Valley eastward to the mid-Atlantic. We could have a slight risk for severe storms, damaging winds, large hail the main mode, but a tornado or two will also be possible. And looking at that corridor, it is nice to see some drenching rains across the Ohio Valley and parts of the lower Midwest here. We have desperately needed the rain, and looking here at the finer details of who could see the heaviest of the rains, the St. Louis region, Springfield, Illinois, eastward to Indianapolis, the Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio region. We could be seeing 1 to as much as 3 inches of rain through the weekend and into early next week, but unfortunately, the news is not as good further to the north and in Minnesota, central and northern Wisconsin, the northwestern side of lower Michigan, or even the upper peninsula of Michigan. Very dry. A lot of these areas will not see as much of a drop of rain through early next week, and that is concerning because the drought is building, and it is building fast across this region. We have moderate drought in those tan shaded colors. The orange shaded color, that is a severe drought. That's a level 2 out of 4 on the drought monitor, and even some of that extreme drought starting to build further north and east into southeastern Iowa. So we could use a nice drink of water from the rainfall out here going into early next week. But as we go into later on this weekend, we're going to start to see a slight pattern change with that big ridge of high pressure getting squashed to the south and a new area of high pressure starting to build across the west coast. And this will promote some heat into early next week. But with a caveat, we will have a frontal system moving across the Dakotas and northern Minnesota early next week that will put a little bit of a damper on some of the heat building across Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, but other areas from Washington State down through Oregon, California, Nevada will be heating up through your 4th of July to holiday time frame early next week. So looking at your temperatures out here, yeah, it's hot across the Gulf Coast, but nothing we can't handle with middle to upper 90s on Sunday. And then as we go into Monday, early next week, we start to turn those winds around. We have more of the low 90s getting up into Minnesota, parts of South Dakota and Iowa once again. And then as we go into Tuesday, July 4th for the holiday, we have that cold front starting to appear across the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. Those areas will be cooling back to the 60s and 70s where the heat will be building across the portions of the Midwest, the central southern plains, and the eastern 2/3 of the country, but not overly so. It's only going to be into the low to mid 90s, not the extreme triple digits that we have been seeing as of late. So let's track this cold front. We do have some isolated storms on Monday pushing across northern Minnesota, North Dakota, and getting into South Dakota here with this cold front. Depending on the coverage of storms, we could also see some severe weather up here on Monday, July 3rd across northern Minnesota and the eastern Dakotas here, the Bismarck region and Fargo. Definitely an area to watch for damaging winds and large hail. I do think that will be the main mode of severe weather on Monday. And then as we go into Tuesday, July 4th, I know a lot of holiday plans out there. If you do live across the southeast, it does look dreary with a lot of rain, but not everybody will see the rain. It'll be more hit and miss here from East Texas to Florida, all the way up into the Carolinas and the Northeast. I think the most persistent rain will be from Maine down here through eastern New York State, and then a couple of showers and storms you'll have to dodge from Wisconsin back westward toward the Denver region as we go through that Tuesday, July 4th holiday. Then as we go through later next week, we start to pick up more of that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and then here we go again with more heavy rain from the Ohio Valley southward to New Orleans in the lower Mississippi Valley later on next week. Turning to the tropics, this is a pretty rare sight to see. We have two hurricanes across the eastern Pacific Ocean at the same time. We have Hurricane Adrian here to the west over the open waters of the eastern Pacific, and Hurricane Beatriz right near the coast of Mexico. And first, we're going to talk about Adrian because you do start to see a little bit of an eye there. It's not the most impressive hurricane you've ever seen on the infrared satellite imagery, I do know that, but it will be persisting further west. So this will stay away from land and start to slowly weaken through the weekend and into early next week as it encounters a lot of those cooler water temperatures well west of the Baja of California. And then here's Hurricane Beatriz. Now, there's not a clear eye wall with this one, but it is right near the coast, bringing some significant waves to western portions of Mexico and some very heavy rainfall as well. So something to watch with this storm. And you can see both the hurricanes at the same time, not too far away from each other, with Hurricane Adrian right here, and then you got Hurricane Beatriz right near the Mexico coast in the eastern Pacific Ocean, and we already have hurricane warnings and also tropical storm watches as far north here as the western coastline there of Mexico. And it's really not a surprise because the sea surface temperature anomalies here are very warm. So it has a lot of warm water to work with. And the further north it gets, if it gets towards the Baja of California, it even has even warmer water to work with before it turns to the west and kind of really starts to fall apart. Looking at these blue anomalies, it will fall apart very quickly. So over the next couple of days, I do expect a low end, maybe medium grade type of hurricane across the western coast there of Mexico. Definitely lots of problems with flooding and storm surge and some significant waves out there. Then it will turn more northwest toward the southern edge of the Baja of California before turning fully to the west as a depression as we get toward that 4th of July timeframe on Tuesday morning as it moves into those cooler waters in the eastern Pacific Ocean. Turning to the North Atlantic, it is very, very uneventful across this region. All the tropical waves coming across from Africa are moving well too far to the south for anything to note here. We have a weak tropical wave or a system here across the western Atlantic, but this has a mere 10% chance to develop, so this is not anything really to speak about. It's going to stay away from land. But if you are in the Caribbean, the Lesser Antilles, the Greater Antilles, or the Southeast United States, it is A-OK over the next 7 to 10 days as all of these waves are well too far to the south, actually hitting northern parts of South America and then crossing over the Central Americas. And that's why the Eastern Pacific is so active, because these waves are so far to the south, they don't have much time in the Caribbean or the Gulf to really get going. Well, if you like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics, be sure to press the subscribe button down below. It's absolutely free to do, and you get these daily weather forecast updates late morning into the early afternoon. I do appreciate that. Also very important to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. It does help out to get all of this weather information out to as many people as possible. So the like button is very important. So I do appreciate that as well. If you do want to follow me on Twitter for additional weather forecast updates, the Twitter handle is down below the description of the video. Press on that and you can follow me there at HWeather420. I do update on that fairly frequently throughout the week as well. Well, thank you guys so much for all the support and all the generosity with this channel and growing it and everything like that. I do appreciate that. Remember to subscribe down below if you're new. Press the like button as well, the thumbs up button. It definitely helps out more than you know. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. And also hit the post notification bell as well. If I do go live or something like that throughout the week, you do have the notification handy for that when I go live for severe weather or the tropics as well. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your Friday, a great holiday weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.